think in the last two elections, security and anti-corruption, or corruption had dominated the theme of those two elections. 2015, it was security, it was about security and corruption. Security likely because of the Shibok girls that were kidnapped in Borno State, and corruption because of the massive uh, corruption that was going on both in the energy sector, the oil and gas sector, and the ones that are just very obvious in the country. So in 2019, it was like more of security as well because Boko Haram had grown stronger and bigger, and nobody was talking about corruption because they're grown tired of it. This election cycle is turning out to be about electricity, and I don't know where it happened from, but I think finally people have come to that realization of what kept saying since 2018, that without electricity, you are not ready for prime time. You cannot industrialize, you cannot educate, you can engage in commercial, international, sized agriculture. You can't engage in any meaningful technological development. You can't engage in even any meaningful healthcare delivery. So everybody is now come back to that realization. And it was interesting that some of the people who participated in the collapse of that sector are actually part of the participants in this election too. So when they came out and started talking, people had to remind them that you created this problem. 8 years that you were vice president of the country, you created this problem for the period that you were in the political party that squandered $16 billion in generating darkness instead of light. You created this problem because you didn't create any electrical plants at the state level to solve some of this problem. So
when you say you, who are you referring
I'm
to?
talking about Atiku, who actually started the whole collapse thing, grid collapse complaints. It was just whining one day. Everybody picked interest in it, and I picked interest too. And as soon as I responded to him, Peter Obi also came on board and said, "Oh my goodness, we didn't know that the grid had been collapsing." But meanwhile, when we did our research, found out that the national grid had been collapsing frequently since 2010. And from 2010 till now, it has collapsed 209 times. In 2014, Peter Obi was an economic advisor to Jonathan. And I was wondering, didn't you advise him about how to solve the problem? You're one of the frontline member of the People's Democratic Party and advisor to the president, even if it's for one day. So, and Tinubu did not complain about it, but we knew that they brought in the fraudulent error on power to Lagos and then generate significant electricity. And people started thinking, how would our life been had they not stolen all this money meant for generating electricity? So that was why I said it started to feel like it's going to be the theme for this election. And that's the realization that those who are also participating in this election participated in destroying the power sector or the electricity sector is very interesting and instructive. So with regards to the fake, or what they call the upcoming bishops, I have a different take. The truth is that for too long in this country, our politicians have been playing the religious cards. So each time there's an election cycle, people run to churches, big churches, small churches. People, make a show of their faith by going to church and kneeling down, and bishops pointing hands and putting heads on there, pouring olive oil on them, just so that they can fool the people. I personally don't think, there is any accreditation for bishops out there known to me, because all the bishops have their own political purpose. And I think it's a matter of going for which bishop you can afford. So you can go for the low budget bishops, end time bishops, as I like to call them, like the one that the APC brought, because they needed them to participate in that ritual of playing the political cards. You can go for high level bishops, like the big ones are the jet setting bishops. You can afford them. All these things cost money because I was involved in 2018 election and I was invited to a number of churches to present myself. Some that I went to, it was a struggle to agree on our terms of engagement. And what I usually say is I'm not kneeling down, number one, because I don't need to show anything. I'm here to save the. I'm here to help the country. So I don't need to ridicule myself, in front of any altar. And I don't need to participate in a religious ritual just so that I can deceive people that I am holy and pure or that, I have professed to any particular religious conviction. Uh, and I don't allow priests, no matter how highly placed they are, to place their hands on my head and I'll be shaking my brain inside my skull. No, I don't do that. So I want us to just accept that all these are gimmicks, whether you are endorsed by low budget end time bishops, or you're endorsed by the ones that wear very nice capes and who are highly respected. They are all playing religious cards, right? And with regards to the accountant general who was arraigned and is now in Kuje for stealing 109 billion naira, or who was found to have embezzled that much money. I think he will be out of Kuje in no time. He probably not spend a night in prison, the real prison world. Because I found out something that this last time that Boko Haram were there, it was interesting that they did not get to hurt any or release any of the VIP prisoners, very important prisoners in the place. One claim was hiding. Meanwhile the entire prison was empty. The reason, as I know, is that those guys don't sleep inside within the four walls of these prisons. They keep them in hotels, and in the morning maybe they want to get visited, they bring them back. I know of a governor who, since he was sentenced to prison for corruption, a former governor. He lives somewhere in Abuja. He lives within the premises of a hospital. I think it's Gaki Hospital. I'm referring to the former governor of Plateau State, Gary. He even conducts businesses there. He received visitors there.
And he's supposed to be that.
He's supposed to be in prison. So when you find out that
specifically, who are the VIP prisoner?
I heard that the former Super Cup, the disgraced Super Cup, Bakari, you have the former governor the former governor of Taraba State. I forget his last name now. And there was a miner who was supposed to be there. Dari, who are all supposed to be inside that prison. They didn't go anywhere.
So what you are saying is at the point of
breaking into
none of them is there.
No, probably they don't sleep in those places. I've been in prison as recently as 2021, January of 2021. They just don't sleep in the prisons. They don't. They have special treatment. They take them out.
You were in prison in 2020. You were in prison 2021 as a detainee or visitor.
I was the detainee. I was arrested for participating in the protest.
And you didn't see any of them?
I didn't see them.
Which of the prison?
Kuje prison. I slept the night there. And I didn't come across any of these VIPs. And some of the prisoners we met there, even though it was a short stay, told us that they did not stay in the prison within the four walls of the prison. So they have their own special area where they stay. But when they want to go and get them, they will go to the place or they will bring them to the prison and then they take them to court. And when they are back, uh, they are looking. They take them to their VIP quarters. Yes. So it's what Nigeria has become. It is the priority that are accorded the big criminals in this country. The privileges they enjoy is unbelievable. I was listening to one of the candidates, I think yesterday, who was saying that, oh, police is going after Yahoo boys, checking their laptops, so why are they doing that? And they offer the grant bail to the guy who stole 160 billion naira. And I'm looking at the whole analysis, and I'm saying, the same candidate is always found in the company of the guys who stole 16 billion naira, $6 billion. And the one in Mina who frittered away $12 billion. That's what I did. You know. So those ones are not even asked to account for it. They never went to court one day. They were never arrested for stealing so much money. Obasanjo was known to have frittered away $16 billion to buy darkness. There's nobody, no policeman ever went there and said that can we go to court so that you explain how much you stole and how much can we recover back from it. Babangida during the Gulf War in 1991, the panel he set up indicted him that he stole $12 billion budget, he has a mansion, they also invested in so many of these telecommunication companies, oil companies that they allocated to themselves, oil wells. So but we don't talk about those ones. We run to those ones for endorsement during the election. That is the big thieves, biggest thieves. Yes. And then we start harassing people who steal goats, chicken. I've just been informed that a guy has spent about 5 days in detention in Benin City because he didn't even steal. Somebody stole his stolen phone. They found the person. He's already confessed that it's one. But the two of them have been in jail for a week now without trial. But this accountant general who stole 190 billion only spent a few days in detention. He was released and then they took him to court. And I'm sure in no time he'll be back out again. And you'll be surprised if he's the next governorship candidate of that state he came
Yeah, on 2023 general election,
from. Yes.
as it is now, a lot of drama from almost every political party. Um, in your own party, is there any controversy right now?
No, you recall that our party was hijacked and some imposters were recognized by the government and INEC for 3 years. So for those 3 years we were in court. We challenged them at the Court of Appeal. And about precisely on June 12th, 2022, they were chased out of the party by the Court of Appeal. And we went straight to organize elections for presidency, governorship, House of Reps, Senate, and State House of Assembly. And we just concluded all that. You remember that INEC claimed that we had not uploaded our candidates, but we've done all that and we've also issued statement to the public, so we don't know which games they were playing. So there's no controversy that we know of at this point. But being who we are always in the eye of the storm. So you never know what they're cooking. But whatever it is, we are up to it and capable of dealing with it.
So, next coming election, AAC 2023, what's the chances?
We have the brightest chance. And I'm not just saying this for the sake of bragging. We are the only political party that has been the youngest but the most prominent. There are 16 political parties in this country today. And if I ask you how many of them do you know, you probably need to Google search. But if they ask you about AAC, you know. You ask about APC, you know. About PDP, you know about NNPP, you know Labour Party, you know. But to let you know that AC is the youngest of them. AC was actually established August of 2018. Every other party that I mentioned to you had been established long ago. And when we came out in 2018, we became a household name very quickly. And we have some of the best ideas. Our manifesto is best, adjudged the best. And we think part of the reason why the government came after the leaders of the party, particularly myself, was because they were really worried that we will become a problematic political party movement for the status quo. So, and this fact and the fact that the public is tired of the other major legacy parties points to the fact that if we do our homework very well, connect with the grassroots, and reach out to Nigerians with ideas that we are known for, that they prefer to vote for us on the condition that elections are free and fair. You know, that's the biggest problem for the Nigerian electoral system. So we have to say that because probably they already made up their mind who would win, even before we go to the election. We know how these guys operate. That's how we brought Buhari back in 2019. But if this is based on the organic nature, programs, ideas, and ideology of a party that can take Nigeria out of the doldrums, out of poverty, insecurity, darkness, and the healthy nature of the economy, of our education system, our infrastructure, and the tech base that we rely upon. I think AEC stands the best chance of merit.
When you look at the some popular candidates currently, you have this name attached to them that their supporters used to address them.
Yes.
Atiku is articulated, Obi, obedience, APC and Tinubu, Emilokon. You as a person, so what is your own slogan that your fans, your supporters will use to address you as well?
We can't continue like this. That's our take it back. In fact, the obedience to take back Nigeria from us. So we don't want names or nomenclatures attached to persons. We want to be about meaningful nomenclatures that people can relate with which they can go to war, even when assets are not here. So many of these you mentioned, they're going to fizzle out even before the election. The local people are already gassing out. You know. The articulated man cannot even articulate electrical problems. And the obedience are starting to get unruly and disobedient on even their principle because they discovered that it's all the rules. But we can't continue like this. It's someone everybody can relate to this because we gotta say enough is enough.
Okay, talking about obedience, you can see APC, PDP, they are part of the ruling class. They are the major people controlling the system from the new democratic system from 1999 down to this moment.
Yes.
They just cross-carpeting, both of them, right? And Nigerians for long have been asking for a new set of people, new faces on them, which we call third force. People start getting curious lately when you tweet and condemn to be visiting those people you address as criminals.
Yes.
Yeah. And some people started getting curious that instead of fighting this guy, why can't you? We both want the same thing, want to move Nigeria from the level where these people is right now, according to you, to a better position. So why don't you? And the people are saying Obi and somebody who has this ideology, Why didn't you work with him to move Nigeria to the level we all want it to be?
I think, in a period of revolutionary curiosity, there could also be revolutionary confusion. And the confusion that has visited the land is what we must clear. Because a similar confusion visited Nigeria in 2015 with the packaging of Buhari as a different person from the old wicked and corrupt guard. And which is the reason why it is very important to first, Obi is not new. He's not a new person. He's part of the old guards. You understand? Obi had been in the PDP since 2002, right? That's almost 18 years ago. From there, yes, he migrated to ABGA, which is an East Nigerian mostly based in the East. It's actually a national party, but more popular in this East. And in ABGA, which was founded by then America Ojukwu, late now, Chief Ojukwu, he promised never to leave ABGA after he was governor for about 8 years. He went back to PDP. And in PDP, he contested as a vice president to the people you are talking about that you don't want, Atiku. In 2019, he was Atiku's vice presidential candidate. So in 2022, after a few weeks or months in PDP, trying to run for office, I'd actually picked up their form, paid, and was going to come to their convention. He discovered that he was going to be outspent. He left PDP and went over to the Labour Party. In fact, as at the time he arrived at the Labour Party had already submitted the list of his members to INEC. That's how urgent it was. They had to add him after the fact. So, how is that person new? Tom. He's not new, he's part of the system. He's been a governor for 8 years. And I've asked people to show me, without hesitation, what did he do in Anambra State? So did he build any international standard roads or highway there? Can you or anyone wake up that you are spending your next vacation in Anambra because Obi was governor of the place and he turned it around? All these questions, when you ask them, what you get is some angry responses that you should not verify. So, how then is he new? How is he different from the people who have been responsible for the rot in the country? Did he not make bad investments? Investing funds meant for education. If Obi had spent $12 million in building a university, the yield from that investment in human capital development by now would have been such that Anambra, the university built with that amount of money, could have produced someone who can bring in even more investment. But what did he do? He invested in a business in which he had private interest, conflict of interest. And then he lied about it, that this investment had yielded $100 million. When, as a matter of fact, the investment had depreciated to $3 million. So, all these points to one thing alone, that there's confusion, at least to some level. And that confusion is clearing up now. My other theory is that those people that he runs to for endorsement, who are his godfathers, are probably using him to suck away the energy and the anger of the youth who really want a radical departure from the past. If you want to depart from the past, you can't be in the company of the likes of Babangida or Obasanjo or Ango Abdullahi, who was a vice chancellor, I think in the 80s, that whose action led to the death of students. But there was a protest in this country and during that period that's known as Ango Must Go, the same Ango Abdullahi, or the Abdullahi, the Abdul Salams, all these former head of state who are responsible for why you don't have electricity, why you don't have roads, why your country is in shambles. The person who is their son or godson is your choice, and you want me to believe that we are we have the same ideology. In fact, if there's anything that is responsible for my condemnation, is the lack of ideology, and that his ideology is rooted in the decadence that was visited upon this country in the last 30 to 40 years.
That's Peter Obi.
Yes.
Earlier you said he stole part of your obedience is part of your slogan and it's
No, no, obedience is not part of our slogan.
Okay.
The slogan is take it back.
Okay.
And then they turned it around and called take Nigeria back.
Oh, okay. That's what he stole from
Yeah.
your
It was our idea, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now is the foundation of his political whatever is same thing from the ruling party.
Yes, it's the same old style. Look at this idea of visiting corrupt former leaders is the same as PDP, what PDP had used in the past. Is what the PC had used in the past. Even Tinubu went to see Babangida now.
But in politics, you're a politician. You know the concept of how powerful the concept of godfatherism is
Yes.
in political worldwide, not just in Nigeria. And who are you looking up to, or who do you see out there as your own role model?
The Nigerian people that we are going to work with our godfathers. You know the problem with godfatherism is that the moment you emerge from that flawed moral process, you can never depart from it. They will be your contractors, your advisors, they will be your economists, and for the reason that they fail, they will also want you to fail. Because that's how godfathers are. They don't allow godsons to rise until they fade. So I can't tell you that, because of politics, I will go and be genuflecting on the altars of fallen gods. No, it's unacceptable. And we will never engage in that.
But for the sake of experience, people tend to do that in order to have not just their blessing. Of course, people want their blessing, but experience and how to rule where they are going to.
But what experience do these people have? The experience in stealing, corruption, murder, uh, drug dealing, all kinds of gerrymandering, carpet bagging, and all that. Those ones are not experiences that we need for progress. I thought we were talking about how Nigeria will progress, not how to drag Nigeria back into the past, into the stone age.
So visiting those former leaders is taking Nigeria backward.
Absolutely. You can't go to a tailor that used to sew you bad clothes every year, right? There was something wrong with you if you do that.
So in 2023, after the election, if you didn't win, what's your next move?
I don't imagine that it will happen. When that period comes, you know my next move will be well announced. So don't worry. You should be asking me what will be my next move when I
Well, according to Atiku, he said you always come to the country whenever there is election, and once you lose, you run. So that's why I asked the question: what's your next move? Are you running?
I think who's suffering from memory loss. Otherwise, you would have known that I've only run once. And after I ran in 2019, I've not left. Because for me, Nigeria is Hotel California. You check in, you may check out, but I can never leave Nigeria. That's the reason I never accepted to become a citizen of any other country, even though I was qualified to be US citizen after 4 years. I spent 20 years there. Never changed my citizenship. But you know who does that? Atiku. Every time he finishes the election, he travels back to Dubai until another election comes up. He used to be in US until they closed down his mansion in US due to corruption. Then he moved to the UK, and now he's in Dubai, where he's a permanent resident of Dubai. I don't mean on paper, but he's permanently mostly there. And I heard he has a getaway island also in Italy. So I've been here since 2019. Maybe the longest I stayed away from Nigeria during that was a month when I went to see my family after the election. I came back. I've been here since. So where did you get the impression that I come every 4 years?
But you are here, you didn't travel since 2019, according to what you said,
Yes.
till now because of the cuts and pays.
No, I'm just telling
You are
you.
being restricted from traveling out of the
No,
country.
I was the one who traveled to Nigeria on my own after the election. I was coming back. There was no question about it. It's not a restriction. And if I wanted to leave, I've been saying this, I would have left since I was released in 2019 December. I know of more than 1,000 border routes that you can use to get out of this country.
It seems you've cancelled any form of collaboration between yourself and Obi. To mention just few, alongside with you, ADC, of course, yourself, um, Chief Adebayo, SDP, and then we have Dumebi Kachuku, um, ADC. Um, do you see future between you and the other people, and two other people that I just mentioned? Future of collaboration, or perhaps um, what makes you different from it?
I think in terms of those other parties, I know of 16 other parties that have presidential candidates. Honestly, apart from maybe the SDP man, I don't know that many other candidates. I'll try and find out their names. Uh, yes, but I don't think there will be opportunity for collaboration with those ones you mentioned. And the reason is that I found that they have affiliations with some of the big legacy parties. I'm not sure if they will collapse into them, but I've heard that they are working with some of these parties. I can't confirm which are which, but we've reached out to some of them. Now we're talking to them. The opportunity for them to solve the problems of this country has come if they can align with us. With regards to our differences, the difference between these other parties and us is that we are very clear about our ideological stance on all the issues affecting Nigeria and all the ills afflicting the country. I'm sure they have their own manifestos as well, and they have party ideology. I just don't see how clear they are, considering that some of the parties have mutated over time. Ours have not changed since we started AAC, except for the period of interruption by the usurpers sponsored by the government. But AAC never changed, the ideology never changed, their position never changed, and the characters or the characteristics of the party never changed. But if we find reason for alliance, we will of course ally. But the alliance will not be to the detriment of our parties. What I want to rule out before it is misinterpreted is that we are not stepping down for anybody in any of the existing parties. But we're glad to accept parties who find us good enough to join us and work with us to make this country work for all, starting from 2022.
Thank you. Um, Revolution now.
Yes.
What's the concept?
The concept is very simple. Is that the country is idea of reforms, you know, passion on managing the country has stopped working as far as we know. A revolution is to come and wipe all that nonsense out, wipe the country clean, and start on a brand new slate. That's what revolution is about. And ours was to be a surgical, very straightforward, quick process, and in which every citizen, and also peaceful, every citizen will mobilize to participate in one way and change the way business is done in Nigeria.
So having the people together on the streets one day and march to the seat of power and force the ruler out. Is that the concept?
It could be anything. I've said this many times, and the concept is such that even if it doesn't happen now, it will happen sooner, as long as we keep following this trajectory of failure.
Maybe it will be part of your plans after the election.
Well, if you are preempting, you know, me, it will not be necessary. What is necessary is for people to know that revolution now has never gone anywhere and will happen one day, either by ballot or by foot on the ground.
So we have people from the south, from the east, a lot of people, not just that region alone, even from the southwest and some are from the north, they are not seeing the word Nigeria again. They are asking for separation.
Yes,
And that is why um, um, Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention up to now. I
yes.
will see in several court hearing also supporting him, asking for his release. But it seems you don't believe in separation. You just want a change of government, but you don't care about the form it comes with.
But what you should understand is I have understudied all the movements that are calling for the integration of Nigeria and found out that all of them are asking for justice. All of them. So we need to find a just country, a just political system that guarantees their rights, safety, puts food on puts food on their table, provide them with employment, good roads, that doesn't treat them as second class citizens. They will drop their agitation. You look at what you call the obedience, for instance, right? One of the biggest Twitter influencers used to call Nigeria a zoo. You know, there are screenshots of his calling Nigeria a zoo that they don't belong in Nigeria. But the moment they had Obi as what they feel is a viable candidate, they started to feel good about that opportunity and hope.
Don't you feel it's due to the power of inclusiveness? They felt being feeling separated, being not allowed to be part of the who is who in the power system over the years. I mean the south, the
The
eastern part,
Southwest, yeah.
yeah. So and having somebody coming from that region now, you have the feelings of sense of belonging, and at least let us be there. And a lot of Nigerians want somebody who's tested power from the Yorubas, from the west, down to south south, Jonathan, several from the north. The region east, eastern part of the country have never, so to say, in this time of new democracy system in Nigeria now, from 1999. So why can't we give them? Why don't you think it's time for them to also rule us?
It is because of experience that the regions of Nigeria that produce presidents are also part of the people calling for separation. The Yorubas, represented by Olusegun Obasanjo, were in power for 8 years. Why was it that that was not enough to stop the new agitation for Yoruba nation? So it's misplaced to think that the moment you have a person bearing you a bad name, or an Igbo name, or a John name, the problem will go away. Go and ask people of Niger Delta after 6 years in power if they have water. After their son became the president of Nigeria for 6 years, that's recent. Good luck, Jonathan. If they have good roads, they couldn't even complete the East-West Highway. That is it West? Yes, East-West Highway that was started a long time ago. The militancy that started has mutated into creation of illegal refineries and wholesale loss of crude to that process. So why is it that Jonathan spending 6 years haven't brought about a better life for the people of South South, or uh, Obasanjo spending 8 years? Why hasn't he made the Southwest into Dubai? Or Yar'Adua said a few years in power, why didn't he change anything? And then most importantly, this disastrous and calamitous regime of Buhari, what has it done to the North, his region? Even his home state has been taken over by bandits. So I think it's important that people learn that to bring inclusiveness, to bring justice, to bring development, you don't have to play the ethnic game or card. I'm not disputing it. I will do that because even when it is risky and dangerous to fight for the rights of someone from the Southeast, I did it. I say probably that probably nobody is more evil than myself in these times because you were there on one occasion that I was almost killed by those who believe that Nnamdi Kanu should die in prison. And these are government agents who hire people to come to court. And I think you experienced more than once. So nobody can tell me the story of inclusiveness. I've done it before. I practice it in my daily life. So I don't want to underrate the desire for inclusiveness by but what I don't believe, and I've always spoken about is that incompetent people can make you become part of any society. That's a fallacy. So I can do it better. That's why I'm presenting myself because I don't carry ethnic badge on my shoulders. I don't I don't leave anybody behind. Same way I will fight for Shiites, it's the same way I will fight for students, fight for NSAS protesters against police brutality, even fight for the policemen themselves who brutalize people so that they can have a better condition of service or living. So that's who you need. That's who you need.
Okay. Recently, Obasanjo said this is the time for Nigerian youth to come out and rule the country. That the future is now. You should not let anybody to deceive the Nigerians youth that the future is tomorrow. Now, this message came from Obasanjo, of course. Should we ignore the message and prosecute the sender, or we should um, um, accept the message?
So if you want to believe Obasanjo, should we follow someone who is not a youth? If you want to believe Obasanjo, leave me out, leave Peter Obi out because we are no longer young people, we are no longer youth, right? Maybe you should vote for Portable.
Well, well, I think we are not ready. We are not ready for that one. But for now, I think
I'm just kidding.
yeah, I know. But for that, for now, I think
I think,
looking at the people
yes,
that rules over the years,
yes,
you, Peter Obi, Vikajuku, Adebayo, you are the youth
yeah.
compared to those ones.
Those, yes. So honestly, maybe I don't disagree. I don't disagree with him on one particular issue that they have deceived the youth for too long, and the youth should never believe. People, including himself, who come around and say, "Oh, tomorrow is for you," because they have already eaten tomorrow. I mean, Nigeria is going to be paying back debt incurred by the Buhari regime probably for the rest of his lifespan. I don't know how long that will be, but some of them will still be around for the next 100 years if we're not careful. Because it has borrowed Nigeria back to the Stone Age. So if people like that tell you to go and bring a not too young to run bill, they will sign it into law. They deceived you in 2019. So I agree with him that you should take a radical departure from the past. And that's what I'm calling for. You cannot say that you take a radical departure from the past and you mash yourself into a corner where the person who's supposed to lead that charge is stuck with the old, stuck with the old, antiquated, corrupt, incompetent, and wicked system. You understand? If I ask you to cleanse yourself of armed robbery, kidnapping, and anytime you see me in the evening, I'm hanging out with known armed robbers and kidnappers, how would you look at me? Even if I say that no, I don't believe in what they do, but they're the ones always paying for my drinks whenever I go to hang out with them in the bar. And we're always in company of them. What does that tell you? It's telling your friends, I'll tell you who you are. So I agree with Obasanjo on that note, but I disagree with him on the fact that he's a dissembler. He's a dishonest old man because as soon as he finishes that speech and steps down from the podium, he's going back to his old ways and pushing Nigeria in the direction of the old ways. So I don't believe him on that note.
Talking about continuity in government, do you believe in it?
No, there's no need to continue with this style of governance. Nothing. So I don't believe in it.
Okay, why I asked that question is basically when in 2015,
Yes,
before the election,
yes,
the APC came with a lot of promises, and part of their promises is to to defeat PDP then candidate, former president, um, and to take power from them because the economy of the country has collapsed according to them at that time, right? And they came into power in order to try and change every phase of every parastatal by removing and putting new people. And look at the result today. Now, if you have a new person coming, and if the person coming with the same ideology from them, and try to remove new people, won't it be a disaster from all? Mind you, as at 2015,
yes.
dollar was between 150 to 190 naira, and today it's 650, 660 something naira
It's
within
probably going
seven
to be a
years.
thousand before this regime is over, if not more. Like it will be 1,000 naira to the dollar. So I guess the point you're trying to make is that there are change of guards, change of personnel. Probably is not a good idea. That's what you're trying to insinuate. But see,
Maybe it's not.
yeah, see, the biggest problem with the government was incompetence.
This government.
This government. Let me reveal a secret to you that it took them 6 months for the Buhari regime to even put together a cabinet.
It's not a secret.
Yes, that is. I'm still going to the secrets. After he changed the cabinet, most of the people who remain in office up to today were PDP operatives. At the point when he tried to appoint, I think it was 2 years or 3 years into the government, they appointed both chairmen and members across board. By the time he inaugurated them, three of them had died already. He forgot. He even inaugurated dead people into his government. So there was no change of guard. To be honest with you, because of the incompetence of the government, the man was unprepared. He wanted to fulfill just one prophecy in his life that he became a head of state or a leader of Nigeria twice. And the moment that was realized, he settled to his next agenda, which was to use Nigeria to take care of himself. So he started, going to the hospital every week, every day, to ensure that he used Nigeria as a medical insurance to prolong his life. But like suspect that had he not become president, Buhari would probably have died by now. And Nigeria spent a lot just to retain this man in office. So the last part of it is that at the end of the day, the PDP elements that knew how to play the game mixed with the APC, and they even said it openly that if you are part of the old corrupt system, if you join them, they will wash your sin off. These are things that you and I experience as journalists in this country. If you're covering Nigeria as it was evolving under the Buhari regime, so there was no change of guard. To be honest with you, there's this mutation of all kinds of characters. Everybody that was in PDP in 2015 is probably back in the APC. So people who were in the APC in 2019 are back in PDP. It's a revolving door uh, of gerrymanders and carpetbaggers.
Okay. Finally,
Yes.
um, in currently in Nigeria right now, we have banditry, kidnapping, um, ESN, IPOB, bad leadership, corruption, a lot of problems with the country right now. You know. Then the president said, well, some of the APC leaders said the parting gift, the best gift they can ever give to Buhari is to hand over the power, for him to hand over the power to Tinubu and Shetima. Then him himself, he had said it several times that he wants to live with a good legacy. What do you have to say? Just summarize Buhari.
Buhari cannot live with any good legacy anymore. We are past that stage. Buhari has been able to lead Nigeria into doom, and he has also led himself into a dustbin of history from where he can never be retrieved. And there's no legacy left, and there's no way Nigerians should check my operating word allow Nigeria to be handed over from a gang of bandits to another set of bandits. Uh, this Jaja weeds style of partisans that you have that are prepared to take over the APC or from the PDP or wherever they might come from, whichever way they are organized, whether it's PDP or PDP Pro Max, which is the Labour Party, as I always said it, nobody should hand over to them. They should hand over to young, vibrant, intelligent, prepared, competent hands like us, like our party, the African National Congress, led by myself. And if you missed it in 2019, don't miss it in 2023. I don't want anybody to regret like we've regretted in the last 7 years. It's been terrible. Don't let us make the mistake again. And I'm calling on our compatriots to let us disgrace them out of power and grace our future with the best leadership Nigeria can produce. That's all I have to say. And I hope people are listening. And it is not too late to change your ways. Stop voting for money bags, incompetent people, sick people, deceptive people, dishonest people, corrupt people, criminally minded people, violent people, bigoted people, people who engage, people with inertia, and people with no ideas and ideology. Don't make that mistake. We can't continue like this.